Hello everyone and welcome back to our channel, F1 Racing. So, ladies and gentlemen, start your engines because the world of Formula One is about to experience a massive shake-up. Formula One has just confirmed a brand new qualifying format that is set to send shockwaves through the paddock and leave F1 drivers reeling. A new format that completely changes the way drivers approach qualifying, making it more intense, more exciting, and more unpredictable than ever before. With this new format, F1 drivers will need to be at the top of their game if they want to secure pole position. But that's not all. This new format will not only change the way we watch qualifying, but it will also have a ripple effect on the rest of the race weekend as teams and drivers strategize and adapt to this new challenge. So, what is this new format that has F1 drivers on edge? It was not confirmed 100% yet, but now that it is confirmed, let's discuss it in today's video. So, get ready for a nail-biting ride as we watch F1 drivers battle it out in this new qualifying format that will change the face of Formula One as we know it. With the stakes higher than ever, the competition will surely be fierce and the action will be non-stop. So, don't miss a minute of today's video. Now, let's start. Before we go to see the changes, let's check out when F1 approved these changes. The F1 Commission meeting on Tuesday, 25th of April 2023 confirmed the sprint changes and also discussed power unit usage. For 2023, the number of internal combustion engines, turbochargers, MGUH and MGUK elements will be increased from 3 to 4. In addition to this change, the updated definition of working on a car during a pit stop penalty, which was previously issued as a sporting directive, will now be included in the sporting regulations. Finally, certain sustainability initiative costs will be excluded from the cost cap, which will cover costs related to installing sustainable infrastructure, auditing and monitoring competitors' carbon footprint, donations to charities that promote environmental sustainability projects, and carbon offset programs. So, beginning with the Azerbaijan Grand Prix that will take place this weekend, Formula One has announced that the F1 Sprint competition format will be modified for each of the 6 races that will be held during the 2023 season. The F1 Sprint is a race that takes place on Saturday afternoons and consists of a 100-kilometer sprint to the finish line. In Baku, the competition will consist of 17 laps and last approximately half an hour. The driver who finishes in 8th place or lower receives 1 point, while the driver who wins F1 Sprint receives 8 points. It is possible for drivers and teams to earn points towards their individual championships. 2 qualifying rounds are used to determine who will start where in F1 Sprint. Even though it will be used to set the starting positions for Sunday's Grand Prix, the first practice will still take place on Friday. In place of the second 1-hour practice session, which was scheduled to take place on Saturday morning, the second qualifying session, also known as the Sprint Shootout, will take place. Each qualifying phase for the Sprint Shootout will be significantly shorter than those for ordinary qualifying because the Sprint Shootout will be used to select the grid for the F1 Sprint. The first question will be 12 minutes, the second for 10 minutes, and the third for 8 minutes, with intervals of 7 minutes between each one. Each phase requires the use of brand new tyres, with mediums for Q1 and Q2, and softs for the final phase. The rationale for the adjustment is to transform Saturday into a virtually independent competition so that the Sprint Shootout and the F1 Sprint will have no bearing on the Grand Prix. Because of this, a malfunction or incident that occurs in the sprint does not impact the rest of the weekend, which, in theory, should encourage its drivers to push themselves harder during the sprint. Because of the new format, teams will only get 1 hour of practice time to collect data, make adjustments to their setups, learn about the tyres, and finish preparing their vehicles for the upcoming race on weekend. This should make the first practice session for the Grand Prix, which will take place on Friday before the qualifying rounds, a lot livelier and even more essential. This will be the first year that the Formula One Sprint Cup will be held at Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium, at LaSalle Circuit in Qatar, and the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. The Red Bull Ring in Austria will host the event for the second time, having done so for the first time the previous year. Meanwhile, Interlagos will host the event for the third time after putting on 2 spectacular shows in 2021 and 2022. So, let's now talk about the penalties apart. Yeah, we know, most of you are curious about it. The new arrangement for the 2023 F1 Sprint includes several clarifications on the application of grid penalties. Suppose a driver receives a grid penalty during the first practice session or qualifying session. In that case, the penalty will carry over to the Grand Prix race, as was outlined by F1 correspondent and presenter Lawrence Barretto in a piece that was published on F1.com. If a driver receives a penalty during the qualifying session for the sprint shootout on Saturday morning, the penalty will only be applied to the F1 sprint race. In conclusion, a driver's penalty from the F1 sprint race will carry over to the Grand Prix event if it was incurred during that race. The new method of allocating grid penalties attempts to create a simpler and more basic system, making it easier for teams, drivers, and spectators to comprehend the impact that penalties will have on each race. It also provides an additional layer of strategy for teams, as they will need to consider not just their vehicle's performance, but also the potential influence of penalties on their starting place for each race. This will require them to evaluate both the performance of their car and the potential impact of penalties on their starting position. Max Verstappen predicts that the Azerbaijan Grand Prix will devolve into a state of more anarchy as a result of the new sprint race format. The Red Bull driver thinks that the new format, which splits the sprint race from the main Grand Prix, will only contribute to the unpredictable aspect of the Baku track. The new format splits the sprint race from the main Grand Prix. On the other hand, Fernando Alonso views the adjustment as a challenge that will add an additional tension to the weekend. On the other side, Lewis Hamilton believes that this weekend will go down in history as the most exciting one of the years so far. Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time Formula One world champion, expressed his enthusiasm for the recent changes made to the F1 rules before the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Hamilton described the upcoming weekend as the most exciting of the year, indicating his positive attitude towards the modifications. He also stated that he was looking forward to seeing how the changes would affect the race. When asked if he approved the modifications, Hamilton responded with an affirmative absolutely, acknowledging that it would be challenging for everyone, but they were all in the same boat. Furthermore, he praised the Baku track, known for its ability to facilitate thrilling racing and excellent passing opportunities. However, Hamilton acknowledged that the schedule for the weekend would be demanding, with just one practice session before qualifying. Despite the challenge, Hamilton emphasized that it was an essential part of the job for Formula One drivers to adapt and make the most of the single session, which would allow them to compete roughly 20 laps of practice before moving on to qualifying. During the media day in Baku, all drivers voiced their support for the new format. However, Verstappen expressed concern about the potential risk of overtaxing the participants with excessive racing. Alonso acknowledged the need to make the weekend more engaging for viewers and admitted that the current format is more demanding for drivers, particularly on Saturdays. He also accepted that the weekend needs to be more environmentally friendly. According to him, the fact that the sprint race is not held in conjunction with the main Grand Prix makes for a more stressful weekend overall, particularly for the drivers. The new format, the purpose of which is to encourage the drivers competing in the sprint race to take more risks, was enthusiastically accepted by those competing in the race. The previous structure, in which the grid for the sprint race was determined based on the results of Friday's qualifying, and the grid for the main Grand Prix was determined based on the outcome of the sprint race, discouraged drivers from taking chances during the sprint race. However, because of the change in the format, the sprint race is now a separate event from the rest of the competition, which may encourage drivers to take more risks. So now it's time to check out the results from this session's most awaited qualifying session. So let's discuss it briefly. During the qualifying session for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, which took place on February 28, April 2023, Charles Leclerc was able to earn the title of pole position. Leclerc's Ferrari and Max Verstappen's Red Bull fought for the lead throughout the session, making for a thrilling and intensely competitive atmosphere. It was an exciting race because Red Bull was quicker in a straight line, but Ferrari was quicker through the turns. Both teams were working hard to win. Both Leclerc and Verstappen turned in identical lap times of 1 minute and 40.445 seconds during the initial Q3 laps. However, on his final lap, Leclerc was able to make up ground and post a time of 1 minute 40 seconds and 203 thousandths of a second to put him 0.188 seconds ahead of Verstappen and allowed him to secure his third consecutive pole position at the Baku City circuit. The other Red Bull, driven by Sergio Perez, moved up to the third position on the grid, followed by the Ferrari, driven by Carlos Sainz, who moved up to the best of the rest position. Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso secured the 5th and 6th positions for their respective teams. Mercedes and Aston Martin. The 7th and 8th positions in the standings were taken by Lando Norris of McLaren and Yuki Tsunoda of AlphaTauri respectively. Lance Stroll and Oscar Piastri rounded out the top 10 positions. George Russell, who was Hamilton's teammate, had a less than stellar day, as he had to settle for 11th place on the grid. Valtteri Bottas of Alfa Romeo finished 14th place, while Esteban Ocon of Alpine and Alex Albon of Williams taking the 12th and 13th slots, respectively. By finishing in 15th place, Logan Sargent qualified for the second round of qualifying for the first time in his F1 career. This made up for the stressful sessions he had previously experienced in Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and Australia. Zhou Guanyu ended up in 16th place after suffering a spin and coming dangerously close to colliding with the barriers, but falling short of making the qualifying time for Q2. However, today was not a good day for Haas, as both Nico Hülkenberg and Kevin Magnussen were eliminated in the first round of qualifying. Magnussen was hampered by technical issues throughout the entirety of Q1. Finally, Pierre Gasly of Alpine and Nick de Vries of AlphaTauri were both involved in separate accidents at Turn 3 during the opening phase of the race. As a result, both drivers will begin Sunday's race from the back of the grid. So guys, to conclude this video, we would like to say that the new F1 format at Azerbaijan GP proved to be an exciting and highly contested event, with Charles Leclerc taking the pole position after a thrilling qualifying session. The new structure, which consists of only one practice session before qualifying, has been met with a variety of reactions from race spectators and drivers alike. Nonetheless, there is no denying that it contributed to the drama and the unpredictable nature of the race. The competition between Leclerc and Max Verstappen highlighted the different capabilities of each driver's vehicle, with the Red Bull being superior in terms of straight line speed, while the Ferrari was superior in terms of cornering speed. In the end, Leclerc was able to clinch pole position for the third year in a row at the Baku City Circuit thanks to his superior performance in the corners. The qualifying session results indicate that Ferrari and Red Bull were the teams to keep an eye on throughout the race. Sergio Perez finished in 3rd place, and Carlos Sainz finished as the best of the rest in 4th place. Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso completed the top 6. Still, those of Leclerc and Verstappen will probably eclipse their achievements because of how remarkable Leclerc and Verstappen's performances were. It is important to point out that Azerbaijan will be the first country of the season to host the F1 sprint format, and that this will take place before the main race on Sunday. A 100km sprint event will be held on Saturday as part of this new format introduced the previous year. The results of this race will be used to select the starting positions for the main race, which will be held on Sunday. It is an exciting new addition to the Formula 1 calendar since it allows drivers to show off their skills and win vital points. The sprint shootout is scheduled to start at 12:30 local time, and the sprint race is scheduled to begin at 5:30 local time, so racing fans can look forward to an exciting weekend of racing. The Azerbaijan Grand Prix is set up to be an action-packed and exciting competition, with top-tier driver Charles Leclerc now sitting on the front row and a number of other drivers competing for first place. It is too soon to determine whether the new format used at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix was a success or not, but overall, we can say that it has been a success so far. But it remains to be seen as the teams look forward to Sunday's race, whether Leclerc will be able to continue his dominance and gain a win for Ferrari that is desperately needed, or whether Verstappen and Red Bull will attempt a comeback and take victory from the jaws of defeat. Both scenarios are exciting. No matter what happens, it will be an exciting race, and fans of Formula 1 won't want to miss it. So that's all from today's video. If you have liked this video, make sure to hit that like button. Don't forget to share this video with your fellow F1 fans. Also, make sure to subscribe to our channel for the latest updates and news from the world of Formula 1. So we will be back soon with another exciting video. Till then, take care and bye bye.